Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast show. Today we are sending from Florida. So let me introduce our guest today. Today, you are most welcome to Growth Leader by Chart, where we explore what it really takes to grow people and culture. Today's guest is Lynne McNamee, founder of Lone Armadillo, and a powerhouse at the intersection of learning, marketing, and leadership. Lynne has an impressive track record, having helped companies double leads, grow revenues, lead fast rebrands, and drive real performance through learning. She's also the creator of Inbound Learning, a speaker at ATD and the Learning Guild, and a true system thinker who effectively leverages AI, artificial intelligence. So get ready for a smart, strategic, and human-centered conversation. Welcome to the show, Lynne.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
You are most welcome. So, Lynne, you have a long experience from different companies as a marketing strategist, and I love your slogan, think like a marketeer. Now, tell me what is behind that.
So when I first moved into the learning space, because as marketers, we were always educating our internal employees, we were educating the public and trying to help people answer their own questions. We were really trying to empower them. And so we have done a lot of testing and tracking within the marketing world, and we've conditioned people to how to learn. So let's leverage what we know works from what marketers have already done and tested.
Okay. So, and if you go a little bit deeper into that, how could that affect a learning organization as such when you think like a marketeer?
So that testing and tracking mentality is absolutely critical. So many times I hear in learning that we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, we don't want to take the risk, but I would suggest it's a bigger risk to only do one version, only do one way. But marketers also, because of the scale and the variations from personalization, really being persona driven, i.e. what motivates someone versus job role, to really take those factors, we build what we're going to be developing, knowing what we're going to customize. So we'll test different calls to action. And so we build it knowing we're going to make changes. And we want that data to better understand what's really pushing the needle, what's really motivating this individual or this group to help get them towards the behavior change we're really after.
Is this really during a training, or is it actually before and getting them attracted to the training?
It's
or
both.
Is it a combo? It's both.
It is both. Yes. So we definitely want to prime the pump, set expectations, and start figuring out in advance what is resonating with someone. What is that internal motivation? The more we know going into it, the more we can leverage and then incorporate that into the actual learning content.
So when let's say here you have met up now with the management team by a company, they are 75 employees, let's say, and they have an idea, but you're not yet sure of if this is a training problem we may face here, or it's actually a positioning problem or something else. How do you approach that before we go into the next step, some type of change management?
Absolutely. It's never just take the order. It's always that whole ask why, ask why, ask why. What has been tried before? Why is this understood to be the problem or the challenge? Because a lot of times as managers, people will get really focused on the right now, but we have a great opportunity as L&D leaders to be that voice, to be like, okay, but where do we need to be in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 2 years? So let's not necessarily be focused on the problem right now. Where is it we're trying to go?
So do you get into change management project also? I mean, besides the training aspects, which normally comes along with a change?
I kind of don't separate the two.
Okay.
I see it all as a change management because we need to consider where individuals are right now, where the organization is right now, what are the points of resistance, as well as what are the external influences.
But what attracts then? I mean, we maybe should start a little bit on Lone Armadillo. What attracts a company of size 50 to 100 people, let's say, coming to you, Lynne? What are the trigger points? Because this has a lot to do also with the marketing, and we're going to talk more about marketing here. So what do you think the triggers are from the company side, the customer side?
It will depend on the individuals, and that's really the trick. And I think that is one of the big things that marketers are really good at. And again, making a distinction between marketing and sales. And a lot of times I've found that L&D is much closer to sales than to marketers, in the sense that marketers, at least historically, have been really about listening to the client, listening to the problem the way they phrase it, the way they're experiencing it, before we make any recommendations. Where a lot of times sales, and again, I see L&D do this, we just come barreling in with one solution. But we haven't really acknowledged, we haven't earned the respect, we haven't earned the right to people's attention by really affirming we understand their pain. We understand it the way they're experiencing it. Like, oh, okay, you're experiencing this way. This is how others are actually experiencing a similar problem. And these are the ways they've fixed it. A lot of times we just jump to, oh, here's the solution, but we haven't helped them see what that connection is.
So now I'm the CEO of this 75 people company. What has triggered me, you think? I am on the phone with Lynne.
So it's probably going to be either a quality issue, a resource issue, a time issue, or a cost issue. And so we're either trying to increase or decrease one of those 4 areas. Those are the problems. And so our job, whether it's marketing, whether it's L&D, is to keep refining, keep drilling down, keep drilling down, keep drilling down of what really is it? What's at the heart of the matter? What are the key issues? And as we do that, frequently it's, as we all know, not a learning issue. It's usually some sort of communication issue among departments and individuals. It's some sort of discrepancy in data between systems. So a lot of times we can really just work on being that therapist, in a sense, of where are the breakdowns within the organization.
And what we're talking about here, and just for a clarification, because you have a word which you call inbound learning. And normally people talk about inbound marketing. And I presume you have something in there. So is that what we're talking about right now, inbound learning? Or what is inbound learning for you? And
So
how does that correlate to inbound marketing?
It definitely is taking that inbound marketing model and bringing it to the learning space. So shifting forward, okay, we've identified whatever challenge, whatever problem, and similar to that sales, L&D, okay, here's the solution, here's how to do it, go do it approach. A lot of times we don't, in developing the learning content, in that pre-promotion of the content, again, we skip over that top of the funnel idea of I have to raise awareness, I have to resonate. At the time we're recording this in August, it's at least here in the States, heavy back to school season. And every advertisement is about back to school, and we can relate anything to back to school. Why? Because it's already on people's minds. So it's this anchor that people are already thinking about, so we tap into that. We're frequently not really taking that approach so much in learning. We assume the anchors are there or that they're already activated. top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, which is really this inbound learning concept, is this idea of let's start with where people already are. Again, how are they framing the problem? What's the reality of how they're trying to do their jobs? And then we're either activating or setting those anchors about what we'll eventually talk about. Then that middle of the funnel, which would be a separate learning experience, that's going to be more of the how to think about it. When is this applicable? What are the different ways you could go about doing it? Maybe hinting at the company's preferred approach. And then that bottom of the funnel, we've already got them. We've got a scaffold. We've got those anchors. We've got them knowing when to think about this. Now we can get into the meat of how to do it and how to keep doing it better. But frequently I find, and I've been reviewing literally thousands of courses by hundreds of different instructional design organizations, that they just jump right into the how to do it. But people aren't ready for that. And again, with the billions of Google searches and YouTube videos that people watch and self-select to watch and consume, this other way, this top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, that's how the internet, how the web has been populated. And so people are conditioned to learn that way. So a lot of the lack of engagement, I think, really stems from this disconnect of L&D starts at bottom of the funnel and they miss those first two steps.
Yeah. But in your company, you are focused on smaller,
Yes.
the smaller part of the SMB, as I understand.
Yes.
I mean, up to 100 from a marketing perspective, it may be bigger than that also. But in that size, they're not. It's not necessary they have an L&D person. They may have a training manager as such. So maybe that's why it's more important also, or you see the same in the larger corporations, that there is a disconnect on the why and the how.
Yeah, it really is.
Is it the same on the smaller ones? Because I do know that they don't have the same amount of resources.
Definitely. I find that it is the same challenge, whether it's a large organization or small, in the sense of the content that's being developed. So standard e-learnings, all the major developers do tend to skip over that whole why, make it relevant, here's how it's going to help you, and tapping into those core motivations. And with the smaller organizations, because most people are wearing so many hats, it's not just a CEO. And so if you do have a smaller organization, there's actually that much more pressure that anytime you're not doing your job, it is really intense to try to make up. So any training of someone new, it's really hard. It's really tough. And then again, as you said, those smaller organizations may not have any or minimal training resources. I'm working with an organization right now, and they have a trainer, but it's someone who did the job for years, but has no experience as a trainer, doesn't really know adult learning theory, hasn't been familiar even with the main organizations in the space. So trying to coach her and move it all forward, it's not an uncommon challenge.
If I look at a larger corporation, and I have all the figures also, how much dollars, in average they spend per employee. From the smaller ones, which are smaller numbers, normally $300 to $500, and then for the bigger ones, it could be $1,500 to $2,000 per employee. Do you see that today's learning management system, courseware, coaches, etc., is it available to a reasonable cost for the smaller companies? Because it seems that we have a division in there. So the larger they invest, and they do invest, and they continue to invest, because they know the people is what we have, and that's where we compete in the end. But in the smaller one, you have, as you say, many hats. They fight. Sometimes it's tough competition, and there's a lot of stuff. And they don't have time, as at least what they say sometimes. But it could also, as you say, it could be a cost issue here. That the solutions, they are not fit for purpose. They are fit for another purpose than for the. What is your experience? Because I know you have said that I want to go and I want to make a change for the smaller companies. And what is your conclusions here? Or what are your conclusions, I should say?
Yeah, definitely. So in the L&D space, the LMSs, the content libraries, custom content, all of that, it's really designed for 500 employees and up. Most of the, for example, learning management systems, if you don't have at least 500 employees, they won't take your calls, they won't return your emails, even to say, sorry, you're too small. There aren't the resources. But then the LinkedIn Learnings or Udemy's, Coursera's, it still requires too much management and knowledge than these smaller organizations have. And so, yes, I'm trying to help fill that void, having a fully managed service and not managing tech, so you don't need the LMS admin, not needing learning strategists. We're able to provide that as well. Having a full content library, fully curated learning paths, reporting, and business consulting with this to help fill that gap, because these smaller businesses, how do you compete with the large ones? Back to that marketing world, when Google Ads first started, it did a lot to level the playing field of smaller companies with larger. So it's kind of that same spirit of trying to do that. Because it takes a lot and a lot of resources to try to pull all that together.
Yeah. And then to do that to a reasonable costing level too.
Absolutely.
So actually, because what we do want in the end is a continuous process, which means that, I mean, if you have done a learning journey at one, which is, for example, for new managers, and then you have mid-management, and then you have the team leaders, and then you have product managers, and then you have the tech department with their leaders, and so on. And I mean, it's all, for example, leadership development, but it is different journeys, and they need to tackle it partially different. And there is really a cost unless you can get it all together with a easy to use learning management system with the content which is easy to put into different journeys, and as you also say, customized to the wordings when necessary with the customer. How do you see the coaching side for the smaller companies? Is that an essential part to have the drive, or is it more important that you have a clear owner within the company say, yeah, to making sure you actually get the progress forward? How do you look at that?
Yeah, the thing, and I have to remind myself multiple times a day, is don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. And so these organizations, and I've run a small business for 20-ish years, that nothing is the default state. And so similar to how with my marketing clients over the years, I've always tried to educate them, help them know enough that they don't need me, but they've now grown so much that they don't have time. And so I continue to be there to support them. And so then there are more resources, to bring in coaching if that's what's needed, help them build a mentoring program if that's what's needed, develop custom content, and go deeper. So for some of those additional resources, partnering with expert organizations and specialty contacts. Again, since I've been in the L&D space for 10 years now, have a good network, have a deep understanding of the space and resources, so able to bring in specialists as needed.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what inspired you to start your company? What what was the, as you saw, market need? What was your personal drive to do that?
So with Lone Armadillo Learning, it really was that moment of recognition that none of these amazing resources fit for these small companies in the United States. 98% of businesses are 100 or fewer employees, and yet the solutions don't target them. And that represents a vast number of employees, i.e., human beings, who, once they leave school, what are their professional development opportunities? How are they going to grow as individuals, as professionals? And so, really trying to find a way within the realistic confines of time and cost to really meet that need.
Mm. And we also know that being, a driver, a founder, is a tough job. Would you recommend young people, experienced people to jump off what they're doing and now I'm gonna run this myself?
No, no, no. The worst advice ever is to start your own business. I suspect it's similar to artists and actors and musicians who are like, I can't not do it. And I think that's being an entrepreneur. If you just can't not do it, then okay. But I think the ability to delegate is the most important thing that a business leader can learn. If it doesn't have to be you, it needs to not be you, and to just be really rigorous about implementing that.
Now, let's have some rapid fire round question with you. Is there one tool you can't live without in your workflow?
Smartsheet. That's where I log every conversation, everything going on, and I have more and more forms just feeding right into there for automation.
Okay. And that makes it easy for you to come back to see where we spoke about and everything. Is there a book or podcast you would recommend to other leaders in the L&D space, or it could be anywhere else, actually?
A couple of podcasts that I definitely really think are valuable are Freakonomics Radio and Rethinking by Adam Grant, because they go a little outside of our narrow industry and are bringing in some research that might make us revisit some of our hard and fast truths.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. You know what, Lynn? It's great having you on board at the Growth Leaders and your very valuable insights, not at least to smaller companies thinking about, okay, how do I do the next step? How do I bring my company forward? How do I actually get my people to love what they're doing, continue to grow in their roles? And I think you do a great job in that, Lynn. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.